Hey, I'm doing a general spread, which is a reading for Mr. Mark Anthony Soliz, which Mr. Soliz was 37 years old, according to documents. And he was an inmate in Texas who was executed by lethal injection on Tuesday of this week, according to records. And so I wanted to do a general reading for him and a general life reading of the victim's son and his wife, who also attended the execution. I did this spread right before taping because I have a few questions and I didn't want to, go too fast or anything. But with this reading, I did want to be very careful, as with all readings, and I don't want to go too fast. I like to take my time because quite a few people might be, a tad bit curious about this whole thing that transpired. And there's one verse of consolation that's actually a Bible verse that came to mind while in preparation for this reading that actually came up out of the blue, and it was the verse that God will make your enemies your footstool. Now, sometimes when there is violence, a person may feel that the persons who they are carrying on violence against are their enemies, and some people can take it to mean that. And in this particular case, the person who was the enemy ended up being in the footstool position, and he did apologize in the end, and he stated that he was in peace. So with the reading that I just conducted, I've inquired as to whether Mark Anthony Soliz was actually at peace when he passed. And the answer came up no, that he was not fully at peace. Moments before death, he was not fully at peace at all. So I thought that was something worth mentioning. And as far as life related, we see that there was a general amount of faithfulness in his past. And then he had time in which to ponder things and think and actually become bored, which this card is indicative of to me in this positioning. Then he began to seek pleasure, things that can make him feel good and feel better in some capacity. And then he ended up possibly waiting on his punishment, which was the execution or the ending of his life, which felt like a very long time for him. And then he was hoping in the future to come in contact with a female figure, possibly the woman who he murdered, or this woman right here could be someone else who he wants to meet up with in the afterlife, whether it be heaven or hell. He was looking forward to a woman, and this woman represents a younger woman, so she could be a version of the lady who he killed, but quite possibly this woman is another woman who was deceased and he wants to meet up with because he was miserable without her. So what I'm going to do today is do the best I can to clarify who this particular woman is. And we'll see. We will also take a look at what part of Mr. Soliz was giving him the most problems when he passed away, or before, directly before his passing. And I'm going to bring these over here and shuffle them. And I'm going to do a reading on his physical, spiritual, and mental health, and see what exactly was giving him the absolute most turmoil in this situation. Try to move these cards up a little bit. Okay. So, with his physical health, it seems he was relatively healthy. And now a picture did show him looking tired, but who was going to get a lot of rest before being executed. Okay. And then just to continue with the reading, his spirituality had declined somewhat. So he had a time period where he was a little bit stronger spiritually, or he felt healthier spiritually. And then that declined a bit. So some doubting had taken place. And mentally, he had done quite a bit of thinking, and he was in a relatively good place. Not the absolute best place, which a lot of humans may tend not to reach. It just depends. So, looking overall, there was a stability in his train of thought. So I'm going to bring in the spirit box and see if any spirits are present, if Mr. Mark Anthony Soliz's guardian angel was wanting to say anything about the situation. Was the woman in Mr. Soliz's cards? Who was that woman? Is there any message from any spirit wants to come through. Is there anything relevant? In this case, that needs to be spoken on. Well, I'm going to go ahead and close.